Hello, everyone. This is Richard So, Executive Director of SF Hep B Free, and you're tuning in to another example of of Living with Hep B. Today, I have a very, very special guest I know personally. It is California State Treasurer Fiona Ma, who has a very intimate connection to hepatitis B. So I'm so excited she's here. She's going to talk a little bit about hepatitis B, her experience, and how she got really into being an advocate. She actually is one of the honorary chairpersons of SF Hep B Free. She's been our champion way, way back since 2007. And we really couldn't be here without all the work she did. And with that, I will hand it over to her. Thank you for joining us, Fiona.
Thank you, Richard. Sorry, the trials and tribulations of doing things at home. My dog was picking up one of the bills.
So, yes, I'd love to start by just saying, you telling the audience who you are and how you ended up being connected to Hep B.
Sure. So my name is Fiona Ma, and I was born with hepatitis B. Never really thought a lot about it until I did a press conference with Dr. Sam So and Ted Bang of Asian Week Foundation, and basically told my story. My grandmother gave it to my mother at birth. My mother gave it to me, and I am a silent carrier. But everyone should go get tested so that they know their condition. So after the press conference, this was back in 2007, Dr. Richard So, Dr. Sam So, your dad, actually said, well, Miss Ma, that's not true. You have chronic hepatitis B. 1 out of 4 people like you will develop either liver cancer or require a liver transplant. So you need to go and see your doctor immediately and make sure that you do a liver scan. So I was like, okay, well, my doctor had been Asian. I don't know why she would tell me that, I didn't really need to get liver scans. So I went back and said, doctor, I need to go get a liver scan. And she was like, why? And I said, well, Dr. Sam So said that I needed to do this. And she's like, okay. So she reluctantly did it. But I am, okay. I don't have any active liver symptoms, or, my liver load is I don't know what the medical term is, but actually, but I'm okay. So my lesson learned was, number one, you think you're going to an Asian doctor and you trust that your doctor is going to know, based on being Asian, that hepatitis B is prevalent in our community, that they would know to do the test. But number two, you just have to take your own health conditions into your own hands and consult experts, right? We've got a great website at SF Hep B Free. We do an annual dinner. We have a lot of different outreach events, educational events. And that's really our message is know your condition, ask your doctor. And what's interesting, Richard, is sometimes I would ask my doctor to do a test initially. And he did all the tests that he thought were appropriate. And I would take it back to your dad. And your dad actually said, they did not do the right tests. So that kind of started me down the path of, hey, if doctors, Asian doctors, are out there and they don't even know what the right tests are, then that's kind of a problem for our community. And so I got a lot more involved with the San Francisco Hep B Free campaign, and we did a lot more outreach, education. I even went up to Del Norte County and talked to a Hmong population up there, just to let them know, hey, you know what? You all should get tested and know your condition, because you just never know. By the time you get the symptoms, it's pretty much too late. And I remember it was about 20 men, and they call them like leaders of the community. And there was one woman who was translating, and they didn't say anything to me. And I kind of told them my story. And all of a sudden, I was like, okay, well, thank you for coming. All right, if you have any questions, here's my card. Then all of a sudden, one hand went up, and they're like, where do we go to get checked? We want to get tested. Our relative died of liver cancer. We don't want to die. So that kind of opened my eyes that we need to do a lot more. There's a lot of myths out there. a lot more educational efforts that need to be had. And I tried to pass laws that would mandate doctors to do continuing education. Of course, the medical association did not like us to tell doctors what to do.
Mhm.
But since then, maybe we could talk about Evan Lowe's bill that you were all successful in getting passed recently.
Yeah, great summary. For those of you listening who don't know, when Fiona says try to get laws passed, she was a San Francisco city supervisor and has kind of risen up to treasurer. But truly, I'm not exaggerating when we say as the campaign that we wouldn't have been able to do as much because Fiona being a part of city government allowed us to have a champion with a real voice and real ability to at least try to get some laws passed, but if not, get press around that and be a major figure that people could relate to. Oh, she's Asian American. Sure, she's an elected official, but she looks like me. She's around my age group, and she even knew about her status, but wasn't sure, given what doctors were saying at the time, just like you said, the proper thing to do. And so, for those of you listening, one of the take home points, just as Fiona has said, is that sometimes doctors who we often know we treat as kind of the authority on what they should know about our health may even have heard about Hep B, but they may not know the exact right tests to give. They may not feel comfortable. It is something that they learn in medical school for literally maybe 10 minutes, and they have to relearn about these things. And they may not be looking for Hep B because many of their patients may not be Asian, where the risk of hepatitis B is just so much greater. Again, the statistic is about 1 in 12 Asian adult immigrants, as opposed to 1 in 1,000 of the general population. And so this is something that it's not necessarily their fault, but they just may not be experts in. And so asking for a Hep B test, asking to see if if you're not infected, to get vaccinated, are things that are truly important. And moving on, as Fiona had just indicated, this past year there's been some exciting news with the help of Assemblymember Evan Lowe, Assemblymember Mike Gibson, and support from folks like Fiona Ma. We were able to pass in California AB 789, which now requires primary care practitioners like doctors to offer a voluntary Hep B and C test. And this is so critical because one of the major facts is that 2 out of 3 people who have chronic Hep B don't know it because they either don't have symptoms or don't get screened, often because you don't have symptoms. So why get screened for something if you don't feel sick at all? And that's what's so dangerous about this disease. As you can see, Fiona looks perfectly healthy. I'm sure she's always been super healthy, but she still has this disease. And now, thankfully, she tracks it with her doctor and makes sure those liver health numbers come back good. And that's the way you manage this disease, actually quite easy. And so, Fiona, going back to your original hepatitis B, may I ask, did you know that you had it long ago? When did you get aware of it? And
Oh yeah. So when I first started my first job at 22, I was working with one of the big 8 accounting firms, and there was a blood drive. Hi, Dad. You want to come say hi?
Hello, who's that?
I'm doing an
interview.
episode on hepatitis B.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So that's
Hello.
Dr.
Hi.
Sam So's son, who is now the executive director.
Oh, I see.
And
How's
so-
your father?
He's
How's
good.
that?
He's good. He's good.
Yeah.
How are you doing?
Oh, I'm fine.
Come down and say hi so you can see. Here's the. Come down.
Oh, yeah,
come
yeah,
down.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Just say
Can you
hi.
see me?
Hello,
Oh,
sir.
Yeah, yeah, now you can see me. Okay,
Yes,
okay.
indeed.
I can see you, Sophie.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
thank you, Dad.
Yeah,
So anyway, so when I first started my first job at 22, I was working with Ernst and Winnie,
Mhm.
and they have blood drives, and so I would go down and I wanted to give blood, and they basically told me I could not give blood because I had hepatitis B, and so that's the first time I went home and said, Mom and Dad, what is hepatitis B? And that's when my mom explained, oh, Grandma gave it to me, I gave it to you at birth, and we're fine, we're just silent
Mm.
carriers. So I didn't think of that from let's see, that was like 1988 to 2007. Okay, when I
Mm.
did that press conference with your 1988, yeah, so it's like what, to 20 years.
Yeah.
Didn't even think about it. Didn't get tested or screened particularly. And that's when, after, talking to your dad at that press conference, he said, no, that's not the case.
Yeah,
Now,
you
I'm
gotta,
lucky, I
yeah,
think, because,
yeah,
it is a silent killer. Uh, you feels when you are in the late stages of liver cancer, that's when you get jaundice and you
yeah,
feel those symptoms. So it is pretty much too late.
yeah,
You do need a liver transplant, or you've got, serious liver cirrhosis cancer that
right,
you're just not going to recover. The good side of all of this is that I started getting my family all tested. So
yeah,
my dad never got it, even though he didn't get the 3 vaccines, but he never got it. My brother was also infected at birth. My sister, who is 16 years younger than me, got vaccinated at birth.
mm,
Medicine, science finally caught up, and so
right,
she does not have it. But we started getting tested, and we were able to catch my mother's liver cancer early. And
wow,
she was able to live probably another 10 years because we had caught it. But
yeah,
that's a whole nother story. I don't know how much time we have, because
mm,
I had to fight with insurance. Under her existing plan, I knew that they did not have any liver experts, because I had been
mm,
doing this with all of you for so long.
mhm,
And I wanted to get her transferred to Stanford Liver Center, so your dad could see her, but that was, like an impossible task. And so
right,
we were able to get her to UCSF,
mhm,
where she was operated on by the best liver doctor there. And
mm,
she did live an extra 10 years. So
yeah,
that's kind of the moral of the story is, get tested, know your condition. And also, right, if you are getting a liver scan and something does look unusual, let your doctor know that, you have hepatitis B, and that they should really, do another test. And they did do another test. We sent it down to your dad to review, and he said, it's really blurry. I need another test. Please have them do it again. And so we had them do it again. And he was very concerned. And he said, well, she needs to go and get an operation right away.
yeah,
And that caused a lot of problems, because my dad was like, oh, no, 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 we need to get, more tests, and we need to get, more expert opinions.
yeah,
I'm like, Dad, the leading expert, Dr. Samso, said, now is the time. We need to go do it. And it caused a huge issue with my family. And finally, we're like arguing, all the time over my mother. And I finally said, maybe we should ask Mom what we
mm,
should do. And my
mhm,
mom, she's had depression most of her life. And so she's
mm,
very, very quiet. And she's just like, yeah, I want to get operated on. And
yeah,
so, good for her. So,
mhm. Yeah, and that's an amazing story. I actually didn't know the details for that, but for everyone listening, as you can hear, this is one of those key things. It's a family thing that's passed down from mothers to children without the mother not knowing. Some people are like, oh, how could the mom pass this disease? Remember, most people have no symptoms. Most people have gotten it from their mom, so this is not a disease that's often transmitted in its chronic version from sexual contact. That is the acute form of the disease. This is something that kind of goes, it's called the silent killer because silently is passed down. And Fiona's actual example hits every point. As she said, her younger sister was vaccinated at birth. Now, since about 1995, they test all pregnant mothers for hepatitis B. And so when a pregnant mother turns up positive, they start that mom on treatment for hepatitis B, but also give the newborn infant a vaccine dose, essentially a booster dose, to prevent the transmission of that chronic Hep B virus to the child. And so Fiona's absolutely right.
yeah, so I want to tell you another thing, because I've never really talked about it, but your dad will know. So people always ask, like, how come it's so prevalent in the Asian community, mostly the Chinese community?
Mm,
And for, centuries, right? If you, in China, if they found out that you had hepatitis B, they could kick you out of your housing, they could kick you out of school, they could fire you from a job. It was
mhm.
really seen like the AIDS virus,
Yes,
way
absolutely.
back when people didn't understand what it was, but they just knew that, it kills people and they
Mhm.
don't want it around anybody. And so everybody was very, very quiet and just kept passing it around,
Right.
right? From generation to generation and people to people. And so, I asked your dad, like, why is this still, in this day and age, that people with hepatitis B are discriminated against. And he said, I know. He goes, I've been fighting it. I've been, going to the United Nations and all the global conferences and really trying to talk about this publicly. And I think it was in about 2011, not that long ago, maybe 10 years ago, that China finally said they're not going to discriminate
Right.
people with hepatitis B. And that was really the first time. So when I started talking about it, back in 2007, my first cousin was living with me, and she was from China and grew up under that, "Ooh, don't talk about hepatitis B."
Right.
So when I started talking about it, she said, "Oh, don't tell the public. They'll think you're sick and they're not going to vote for you." And I was like, "What? Like, what are you talking about?" And she was so upset every time I would talk about hepatitis B, right? And then she started understanding that we need to talk about it, right? There is vaccines so that you don't get it. If you do have it and your liver loads are high, there is medication out there. There's no reason that people are dying of liver cancer from hepatitis B today. There's just no excuses.
Yeah, there you have it, folks. Like straight from one of our elected officials. It's totally true. We've said it time and time again on this show that there's so much we can do, and it is not this, just breaking down misinformation. You're not going to get it by hugging your aunt or uncle who has it. Even sharing food. I mean, unless there's open source, sharing bathrooms. We heard stories. My father, as you said, would tell stories how folks in China would say, "Oh yeah, I do know. My uncle has this. He lives in a separate part of the house and he doesn't eat with us." And my dad was listening and saying, "This is crazy. I mean, it must be so depressing and alienating for that family member." And obviously it'd be one thing if it was like COVID, where really you can't be in close proximity with the person. But because hepatitis B is transmitted from blood to blood contact, there's no reason that that person has to be separated from the rest of the family for normal everyday activities. And same thing with like kissing, family members who you're kissing your grandchildren, that type of thing. It's not going to transmit this disease. So it's just about talking about it. That's why we're so glad you're here today talking about it. And so we're really thankful for that. Let me move on here. For you as a kind of Asian, I have two questions on how to best educate people out there. One would be kind of for, I would say, Asian American immigrants who still feel like very Asian, but also American in your age range. What do you think is the best way to reach other folks like you?
Yeah, I know when we first started back in 2007, we launched a very aggressive outreach advertising campaign. Back then, Gavin Newsom was our mayor of San Francisco and very, very supportive. And him and I were on bus shelters. We were on the side of buses. We were in TV ads, newspaper ads. And then as mayor, he actually put in an insert when people got married, talking about hepatitis B and how you should go get tested and make sure that there could be a vaccine if you don't have it. And so I think we probably need to do something like that again. I don't know if you remember, we had like the 10, it was groups of 10 people.
Yeah, the Which One Deserves to Die, that epic campaign. Yes.
Yeah, and that was really controversial because people thought, oh my God, it's really morbid, but it caught people's attention. And they said, well, what does this mean? Like, who deserves to die, And so I think it did really help get more people tested and educated about it. So, I mean, I would like to see more education, especially in the Asian media these days. I know there's still the traditional, paper newspapers, but there's a lot of online news agencies now that are publishing and publicizing, different community events. And it's very easy, especially during the pandemic. So I would like to really see another campaign like that, just raising people's awareness, because I think it's been a while since we've been that aggressive.
And a big public thing. Yeah, that's a great suggestion. We are looking at doing something for SamTrans Network in northern San Mateo County. We have some grant money for that, but I think you're totally right. It's about time. We just got to raise some more money to do some of those big media buys. But I think it was very effective. For those of you who don't know, the Which One Deserves to Die campaign was epic is the right word. We went with an agency and we said, we want people to pay attention to this. We don't want the normal kind of safety PSA thing. We want something that grabs people's attention. And so at the time, it was 1 in 10 Asian adult immigrants had this disease. And so they came up with the idea of having 10 Asians in different settings, 10 Asian office workers, 10 in a family. We did one with beauty pageants. Yeah, beauty queens, one with doctors, and it would say which one deserves to die. And some of the ads would darken out one person, indicating, 1 in 10 has this, likely does not know it, will likely pass away from it. And it actually got national attention, was on TV news, and actually was recognized by the Centers of Disease Control as an effective, huge, like first of its kind public service announcement here in San Francisco for hepatitis B. And the organization got a plaque and recognition and everything. And so we wouldn't have been able to do that without Fiona's support either. And so, yes, we truly believe it's about that time too. So my second question is, what do you think is the best way to reach perhaps folks who are maybe your parents' generation or newer immigrants who may not have a strong command of English and may be more in that? I know you talked about reaching ethnic media, but anything else?
Yes, and I think our campaign was really about people like you and me making sure that our relatives got tested, right? Because a lot of times they may not want to go to the doctor, or when they do go to the doctor, they just trust the doctor. So it was like me saying to my mom, hey, make sure you get a hepatitis B test and bring it back to me so I can see whether they really tested you. And
Right.
she's like, okay, right. And so I think for the older generation, the younger generation, needs to really help them and provide that guidance, and even maybe go to the doctor with them and say, hey, doctor, when was the last time my mother got tested for hepatitis B? Oh, she hasn't? Well, can you please test her? Because, this is what we're trying to, promote in the community, and not to be ashamed or embarrassed. And that's part of it is, the stigma that if you do have it, then what? What does that mean? Right. And so we have to just get over that.
Yeah, I think that drives home another really important point for everyone listening. If you are a family member who's just learning about this, or maybe you're a family member who thinks maybe another family member may have this, just like Fiona, it may not be the easiest conversation. It may not be one that the recipient wants to have. But as Fiona said with her mom, she may have helped save 10 years of her life, being able to spend it with her family by having this conversation, by insisting that they look into it, do something. You don't have to be rude. You don't have to make it scary. Just say, hey, there's a lot we can do. This isn't a death sentence. This is something that really you can manage with your doctor without that many side effects. People think, like many of the other, when they hear cancer, it means that they'll have to take these chemotherapy drugs and it will destroy their lives. Well, the amazing thing, as we've been saying, is if you catch it before it's the cancer, it is essentially not life-changing. Fiona here had known about her status, and she probably visits the doctor a couple more times than someone who doesn't have Hep B, just 2 times. And then, Fiona, are you part of the group that takes that once a day, or do you not have to do that 1 a day drug?
I don't have to take any drugs.
Yes. So you have maybe when we did our episode with David Doan, he takes a medication once a day. But as you can just hear from Fiona, that's really only if the liver numbers for the virus stay stubbornly high and the doctor is afraid that will damage your liver. But at more than half of patients with chronic Hep B don't end up, the doctor decides not to prescribe that. And so really it doesn't affect Fiona's life except for that extra visit, 2 visits instead of 1 a year. So again, this isn't something that's going to trap your relative in the hospital, nothing like hospice care or anything like that. And so I really want to stress that we can do so much by talking about it with your relatives, with your aunts and uncles, with your parents, even if this is one thing that in their culture, they say, I don't want to talk about disease. I don't want to talk about anything that could look negatively on me from the community. So that's why we need to talk about it more, so that there isn't this stigma around it. Fiona, the next question I'd want to ask is, what would you tell a person who has just discovered that they have chronic hepatitis B?
Yeah, so they just discovered it. Well, know your status. Number one, is your doctor a liver expert? So because I know I have chronic hepatitis B, I do go to liver experts now. So I'm confident that the blood test they're giving me and the liver scans and when they're reviewing it, that they actually know what they're looking at. So I would say if you do have chronic hepatitis B, go find a liver specialist
Mhm.
as your primary care doctor, first and foremost. Second, educate yourself, join us, be that spokesperson. I met Alan Wong. He was an ABC newscaster way back when, and I just was going around the community talking about my condition and how we need to talk more about it. And after that dinner, he said two of his uncles had died from liver
Mhm,
cancer,
mhm.
and he knew that. But his whole family didn't want to talk about it. And he decided that he was going to come out and talk about it. And he actually talked about it on the ABC 7 News,
Mhm.
that this was important and that he had it and that he was taking medication and taking his own health into his own hands. And that led to, right, a documentary. It led to
Yeah.
other folks who weren't so lucky. I can't remember his name, but he actually documented his whole journey. How, one day, I think he was like 35 years old and he was
Mhm.
riding bicycles and he would run marathons. And then he discovered he had hepatitis B, and his condition went down pretty fast, even though he knew he had the condition, and he filmed every moment of it until he actually passed away, just documenting everything. So those stories are also, they're heartbreaking, but they're also very important for our community to hear.
Absolutely. And Fiona, it's so funny. You seem like the greatest spokesman because yes, on our YouTube where all these are posted is that a link to that Be About It documentary. It's only 37 minutes. It really shows both part of Alan's journey as well as the gentleman AJ Habanero's journey. He was, I think, only 30 or 31 actually when he passed away, but really shows that it is in our community still. And Alan was the very first person for this interview series for that show too. And the clip of him talking about Hep B and him being infected is also on our YouTube, which was an amazing and brave thing for him to come out in the normal newscast news anchor segment of at the time when he was an anchor and talk about it. So really amazing and helped Fiona and helped us get this campaign really rolling and people knowing about it because people would recognize him and say, hey, I can't believe you talked about this right in your major segment. So that's really fantastic. The next one is you are in a unique situation as a elected official, and you've been an elected official for most of your career, the later career. And I'd love to ask how your condition has affected you as an elected official and what we can do more utilizing you as an elected official to fight this disease.
Yeah, I mean, because my health is relatively good and stable, and I don't have any liver symptoms right now. It doesn't affect my daily life, like you said. Like I said, you should go to your doctor twice a year to make sure my condition is monitored. But I could talk about it a little bit more. I used to talk about it a lot, and I haven't really talked about it in a long time. Normally around our hepatitis B dinners, I will talk about my story, but I think I should be talking about it probably a little bit more, and we should maybe bring that up as a topic. Oh, you know what? The Lions Club. Let's see. The Cyber Lions Club. There's
Mhm.
hundreds of Lions clubs around the world, and the Cyber Lions Club recently started with Michael Chan and Macy Mack, and each club picks a nonprofit that they want to advocate for, and they have picked hepatitis B
Mhm.
as their cause. And so we are going to be talking more about that. But that reminds me, Richard, we should really probably do a little bit more with them, get
Mhm.
engaged in our gala, train some of them on the talking points to get out there and really talk about it, and then have handouts, right? When you're at a meeting, right? Hey, here's information, here's where you go, here are the facts. And I think when people first find out about it, they're scared because they don't really know. But knowing is the first step. And that's how we should, really approach it like a real campaign. Hey, Fiona Ma, I'm running for office. Here's some information about me. Read about it. Here's some facts. If you have any questions, please call me. Here's how to reach me. And I think we should really do more, especially with that's my club, my Cyber Lions Club. So we're talking about it, and I want to connect the two of you guys.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I actually talk to him quite often. We're already doing our beginning steps of what you said. We've labeled it the Hepatitis Action Initiative. It's going to be Hep B and Hep A, and you have the perfect right public health mindset. We're working on flyers right now that will be for hepatitis B and hepatitis C. And so I look forward to that, and we're going to try to do some stuff in Foster City to start out, since there's such a huge Asian population there.
And we should get some pens too. Asians like to keep pens, so
yeah,
free wherever we are.
the free swag. We know our community loves that thing. And I think the other point that is so important is that having spokeswomen and men in kind of in the spotlight who know this experience make it that much more important. An average citizen who may say, what could assembly member or mayor, this person, know about my story, my disease, how I go through it. But if you see someone who has that as an elected official, that can mean a lot. So again, I know I feel like I've repeated it, but Fiona, thank you for being there.
When you're talking about elected officials, there's Asian Americans all over the state of California, right? We have hepatitis B awareness day, month, week.
Yes.
World Hepatitis, Day. We also have Asian Pacific Islander Heritage Month, and so that's maybe a time to go ask your elected official to present a resolution, just saying, hey, we're celebrating this, and it's really an opportunity to get the word out. And so that also generates a lot of interest, not only with the elected officials, but hopefully the local press and their community. And in the legislature, I know for the 6 years I was there, I did Hepatitis Awareness Month every year that I was there. And it gave me an opportunity to tell my colleagues and talk about it to the public about why it's important to me and my community and how we're trying to save lives.
Yep, and that's a great point too. Each year around those times in May for ABA Heritage, we do activities, and also for World Hepatitis Day, July 28th. Those are great times. I'm sure many of you listening have gotten those emails on certain bills or issues that certain nonprofits or advocacy groups say, oh, like sign your name and put your signature and date to support this. Those things really matter. Elected officials do kind of tally those in their offices. I would know, I used to work long ago in elected officials, and we literally had a whiteboard where we just were like, someone called about this, someone called about this. And so please, as a listener, know that your voice, it matters. It can be important. And that's how we get these resolutions and these things passed. And it's doubly important because when those resolutions pass in the city level, at the county level, at the state level, that's what opens the door for folks like Fiona to actually spend some time with their colleagues in the legislature talking about it. And without that window, every legislator is working on so many issues from their districts and like throughout the whole state. And so getting that, even if it's 5 minutes on the floor or 5 minutes on a conference call with the other Asian Pacific Islander elected officials or everyone on a sign-on letter, that's how we get our elected officials to make a difference, to change, to pass something like AB 789 without that exposure. And not only is that exposure good across the legislators, but that's the type of stuff that media reports on. So you can do a little celebration or protest in your community, but are you going to get newspaper or radio to cover that? Maybe not. But if it's something that passes in the legislature, most media will do some sort of little segment on it. And so those are really important things as advocates, as people that maybe we're not infected, or if you are, can do to help promote this fight against this disease. Great. I think just I have a couple of more questions for you, and that is, what would you, we just talked about this a little bit, but what would you tell other people who are listening to this and thinking, you know what, maybe I can support this cause. What should I, but the person says, what should I do? I'm just one person. What would you tell them?
I mean, everybody, each person has a voice. They have a vote. They can help us spread the word. They can join our Cyber Lions Club. They can come support us at our gala. They can log on to our website, sfhepbfree.org. Join our cause. I don't know, Richard, you probably have more events and ways for
Mhm.
people to get involved. I don't know, tell your friends, tell your family, post on social media, right? Every year, I used to do these um, um, PSAs with giants, uh,
Yeah,
team members.
I
And
remember those.
once in a while, it does pop up around hepatitis B week or day, and I share it. And you can share my story and my short PSA message. I am on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You can say Fiona Ma Hep B, and it'll probably come up. And when we have events, please show up. I don't know, just I'm sure if you just say Hep B, things will pop up.
Yes, great. I think I love it when we hear from folks who are interviewing or just community members, because that's absolutely true. You may think that, even if you Google Hep B, it means it's going to be higher on that Google search bar, because that's how the algorithm works. If you go to our website, it'll mean that our website is more likely to come up when people search Hep B. Whether when you see a post about it on Facebook, absolutely right. Just share it. That's easy. Just one click. And if you're listening to this, you want a strong, tangible action step today. After listening to this, reach out to two family members. Doesn't even have to be family members. Two people you know. And go, hey, I just learned about this interesting disease, Hep B. It affects our people. If you're Asian Pacific Islander, and just quickly visit the website, and we have these quick fast sheets about Hep B. Educate yourself. And if you do get a chance, whether it is something like we now, every Chinese Heritage Night, as Fiona says, we do a collaboration with the Giants, and you can buy a ticket and a little bit of that money goes to us, and it just supports the Asian American community. Same thing with the Golden State Warriors. If you prefer basketball, we do post a PSA at the Giants game, usually at the fourth inning. We've done it for the past 2 years. We revamped that and continued that. Thanks for the idea, Fiona. We're totally not poaching that from you. Yeah, there's so much you can do. You can just go to that night's Giants game. You can go to that night's Warriors game, and just really talk to it. This is really something that you can have a 5-minute conversation and save someone's life. Great. Is there anything else you want to add, Fiona?
I think this was really extensive. I haven't talked about this publicly, some of the stories that I shared. So thank you, Richard, for this opportunity to just get this top of mind and make this a priority in my life. And I am going to start talking about hepatitis B a lot more. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. In terms of our organization and working with Fiona, we are doing a lot around AB 789. We're now going to try to reach out to the health networks, make sure that this rule is being implemented. Unfortunately, the law didn't come with money to enact it, and so it's up to the community to really push this forward on both. So we are working with both the physician side, trying to let people know about the law and help systems implement it, as well as talk to the public and say, you now have this right to ask for a Hep B test, and they're supposed to give it to you. They're actually, the doctor is supposed to tell you that you have this opportunity to get a free Hep B and Hep C test. And so we're doing that too. So Fiona, I'm sure we will reach out to see how we can better promote that going on into this year. For those of you, again, who don't know, Fiona is our California State Treasurer and is probably, I'm not sure, but has higher ambitions in public office. So we look forward to that and supporting you. If there's any way that we can support you more, we're happy to shout that out. And then, of course, in terms of events, we have our annual gala on October 13th this year at the Pacific Terrace in the Intercontinental hotel. Tickets will be coming up available in the next 2 weeks. And so look out for that. We'll be sending that out through our constant contact email list. So if you're listening to this and you want to be notified, please visit our website, sfhepbfree.org, and shoot us an email, and we can put you on that list and send you an invite. The event is always really cool and nice. This year it's going to be more, have that happy hour feel. Going to have open bar and food, and we'll just be celebrating community leaders who help in the fight against Hep B, and doing some fun fundraising activities. And actually, Fiona Ma will be speaking at it as one of our keynote speakers. So thank you again, Fiona, for all your time. We really, really appreciate it. I've been looking forward to this episode. Thank you for sharing your story and being with us.
Thank you. Thank you, Richard, for all you do, and keeping this top of mind, and just helping to educate and save lives. So,
thank you. All right. The last little note I'll say is if you do want help, that you can always call our number that is on our website. We speak Cantonese, Mandarin, and English, and you can have any questions about Hep B, about finding care, getting vaccination or screening, as well as if you're looking for a community. There's a wonderful website called hepbcommunity.org. It's a global forum for patients that is monitored by physicians. So you can ask everything from care questions to just find others like you who are facing some of the same issues. It's really, really wonderful. There are more than 1,000 people on there. I think more than 1,000 posts on there. So check that out. That'll be in the description too. And with that, we'll end it here. Thanks. We'll see you on the next episode, and catch you later.